Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Rohan and Josh about season 2 of Brea on NBC. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having us, man.
I mean, it's always exciting when something comes back for another season. I mean, Josh, specifically, what is kind of the overall mindset when, you know, a show is coming back for season 2, specifically with this one? Is it your character specifically? Is it just kind of seeing where the story goes? I feel like it's a lot like the first kind of impressions and thoughts about a season 2.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with a show this big and this crazy, like, you got to start with character, because trying to guess what the plot's going to be that's just like whacking your head against the wall, because the writers, you know, whatever can happen will happen. You know, it's wild. It must be wild in there. You know, I'd love to sit in a writer's session because where the story goes is you just can never predict it. So it has to start with the character.
That's so true. And Rohan, it's interesting because one of my favorite things about this show, and I'm curious when you kind of start reading the scripts for this, instantly you realize this, feels like a genre-bending show in a lot of ways. There is like a lot kind of happening with the show. Is that one of your favorite things about being part of the Brea universe, so to speak?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. The different things that we get to play with through genre bending is so fun. It's so fun. You know, as an actor, I get to do things I do so many different things on one project that it's such a dream to play around with.
It's amazing. There's already so many like episodes kind of rolling out on NBC. I mean, so much has kind of happened, and I feel like you can't really predict things. Josh, is it crazy to think about kind of the audience's perspective, where like every episode, some kind of like, I can't even imagine, like you're probably like filming it and be like, wow, what's happening? But has it ever come across your mind like, I can't wait when like the audience will finally get to see this? Do you think about those things when you're filming it?
Oh, without a doubt, man. I mean, this show is for the audience, right? You know, like this is kind of television that, you know, you want people to get excited about, and it's so wild that, you know, when we see like every now and again when you're like doom scrolling, you'll see someone come up, man, like someone like #LaBrea, this be wild, like, you know, like that's kind of the general takeaway. People are just like, this show is wild. And, you know, either love it or hate it for that fact. And I find that I absolutely love it for that fact. And thankfully, the audience is responding in turn. You know, they kind of know what this is. And yeah, there's a couple of episodes coming up that I was like, man, I cannot wait to see what the word on the street's going to be following this episode, because like stuff that it's
crazy because I feel like, and Ro, you can kind of add to this as well, because I remember like the same thing with episode like season 1 as well. There was just so many things that kind of happened in each episode. Like if you watch like one episode and then 1 to 3, it feels like it's like, oh my God, like I can't, like there's so many things that kind of happen. Like as an actor, you know, the storytelling perspective of things, how do you kind of what is that mindset kind of tackling, like where there's so much that kind of happens, like episode to episode, not just the season, but like episode 1 to episode 2? Like, what do you think about that?
You're right. There's a lot that happens, and we have so many characters to play around with, and we want to explore them all, you know, equally and give them all time to breathe. What I find that helps me kind of make sense of it all is being able to navigate Scott's storyline.
Yeah,
following all the others and trying to keep up with that and seeing if that makes sense with where I'm at is so overwhelming that just to declutter it all, focusing on my storyline is something that I'm able to kind of dedicate and completely focus on.
Absolutely. Josh, you can't say your character, but who's so far, without kind of getting into big spoilers? I mean, it's funny, maybe you can't give a proper answer without talking about super spoilers, but like, which character do you kind of enjoy the growth of the most so far in Brea for season 2?
Honestly, Scott, I think. Aside from Lucas, I think Scott's journey is probably one of the more like relevant journeys, you know, like somebody dealing with trauma, you know, like and Lucas mirrors that too, and Veronica as well. So yeah, between Scott and Veronica, they're definitely the journeys, the more unconventional journeys, you know.
There's a lot of growth with Riley. Absolutely, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, all the characters have such great like growth, but I think the outsiders. Scott's an outsider. Veronica, in her background being kidnapped, and that she's an outsider, and watching them become, somewhat of a leader within the group. Because you have the quite like the people you look at that are like they're the lead. They got quite. Eoin, for example, plays Gavin. Like. He's a leader. He's been in the army. He's got his faults, but he's established as a leader. So seeing these outsiders come up and start leading, I find that really interesting. So yeah,
absolutely. Rohan, before we wrap up as well, I find it interesting because so many kind of characters in the show specifically. There's certain characters that cross paths with more characters. More specifically, there's a lot kind of happening. What is it like working on like a ensemble cast like Brea specifically?
It's fun. It's wild. At this point in season 2, I think they've put in a lot of effort to allow different characters to interact that haven't normally we haven't kind of paired together. So in this season, I meet Izzy for the first time. I meet Gavin. I spend a bit more time with Eve's character, and watching how those relationships kind of flourish or develop or spark. Is there something there? Do we want to see more of these characters, or do we hate seeing these characters together? From an audience perspective, I like, because I'm a fan of the show as well, right? And I'm very curious about, I'd love to see those two in the same room, and how would they navigate a situation together? How would they go on an adventure together? That's fun for me. And so in season 2, I think it was their intention to put characters together and see what flies. I'm enjoying that.
Season 2 of La Brea is rolling out on NBC. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was so great chatting with both of you.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.